Mike, so excited to be here with you today. I love the fact people can't see unless they're watching the video version, but we're matching today.
Well, that's a great segue to all our people listening to the podcast. This is also available in video. What a great opportunity for you to start watching us as well as listening to us. But hey, Jennifer, how are you?
Good. And they can see our stylish wardrobe choices today.
Absolutely. I'm really excited to be here again. We always have such a great conversation where we're in the studio and we have such great guests. And, you know, today is absolutely no different.
Yeah, today we have Troy Van Vliet, and he is the principal at TAVAN Developments. Look, I got
nailed
that.
It.
Yeah, I was like, I nailed it. Yes.
Yeah.
And Troy is wearing a beautiful beige number today. Someone said today that we look kind of like an Oreo cookie because Mike's in black and I'm in black. So, you know, it's how it goes.
I like the symmetry myself. I think we did this on purpose.
Makes our guests feel comfortable.
Speaking of our guests, we should probably ask him some questions too.
Yeah.
Of course, we have the privilege of having Troy on with us today. And
First time,
absolutely. And my introduction to his company, we all know what his company does, but my introduction to your company was during the HAVAN Awards when literally every 7 to 10 minutes, your team members went up to accept one of many, many, many awards. So first of all, congratulations. But two, so awesome to have you here because I think there's a lot we're going to learn from you today.
So actually, I was sitting at Troy's table and I was sitting with all his team members and I was like giving them water because I was like, you guys must be exhausted every time you keep going up to get an award. So it was a really amazing night and I was able to interview a few of them too on the little red carpet that I was doing. But again, congratulations. You guys definitely deserve it. Long history of building and you do some great projects.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thanks for having me here today. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. So,
well, we're really excited because, you know, everyone we have on has a very unique perspective and a different perspective, and I'm really excited to learn some stuff from you today. But before we get too deep into what you're doing right now, can you take a few steps back and tell us where it all began? How'd you get started in this? Is this something you just fell into naturally? Let's talk a little bit more about Troy and your journey towards being a multiple award winner.
Sure. Thank you. I'll try and give you the Coles Notes version because my family history in construction is quite long and vast. My dad was one of 10 brothers that all immigrated one at a time from the Netherlands. And they followed their oldest brother, my uncle Neil, who moved here first. And he set up van construction. He was an engineer and he set up van construction. And they did mostly commercial and institutional work, infrastructure work as well. A lot of large construction projects. So one at a time, as his brothers immigrated to Canada, it was to Alberta at first, they all joined van construction. So at one point there were 10 brothers, all partners in the same company, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. But and it worked. It worked back then. And probably one of the most notable things that they built was the Macmillan Bloedel Conservatory. So there's I'll say a famous picture, but a famous picture of all 10 brothers after the project sitting in front of the conservatory on one of the stone walls that borders the conservatory. And all 10 brothers are in that photo, and that photo still hangs today up in the conservatory. So it's still up in there. Yeah. And it's been over 50 years now since that project was done.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a staple. Gotta love going to see the birds in there.
It is, yeah. So that's part of the history. And my dad and one of his brothers, my uncle Paul, they ended up splitting off eventually, and they started their own construction company. It was called Double V Construction for Van Vliet, and that company is still run today by my cousin, Glenn, and they still do commercial and institutional work, a lot of that. But I didn't get in the family business, although I grew up in it, I worked in it, and didn't get, and as the son of one of the bosses, you usually get one of two things. You either get all the real cushy jobs because you're the son, or you get the opposite, which is all the real horrible jobs that they can't get anybody else to do. So that's how we grew up, is doing all the horrible jobs that nobody else got to do. So my introduction to construction wasn't that great. I didn't really think that I would be doing it long term. So through high school and university, summer jobs, stuff like that, that's what we got to do. And so I didn't get formally into construction right away. I eventually, after buying my first home, which was a long time ago, started doing some renovating to it. It was actually a new home with an unfinished basement, and doing what having known what I did in construction or learned in construction at a young age, I just finished the basement myself, and then sold it, and then did it again, and then did it again, and so that was just on my own personal homes until eventually set up my own company in construction and development, which is what I really aspired to. And got into the luxury homes, started building those on the west side, mostly for I would build and then sell. And then eventually got into custom home building as well. Once again, majority of it all on the luxury side of homes, majority of it on the west side in Vancouver. And that just seems to be where most of our business is. We're kind of prominent there. But we do building in other areas around the Lower Mainland as well, and we've also expanded. We're getting into some multifamily side of things, and we got some other projects on the go too. So, how's that for a quick overview?
That's a great overview. I was like, you brought back memories because I grew up in a family construction company as well. And it's true, the jobs that you get aren't glamorous. My brother got thrown the site at 14 and was like, push a broom.
Yeah.
And then my mom was like, you can come work in the office for me. And then when you screw up something in the office, your mother is knocking on the door of your bedroom door at 7 in the morning. So good thing you stuck with it and you went into construction because, of course, I've seen your signs around the Shaughnessy area many times in other parts of Vancouver. And I think it's a true testament to you and your quality and everything like that. Which brings us to the next thing. Mike and I talked about it. You won a lot of awards, which was amazing. Let's talk a little bit about them.
All 7 of them.
All 7 of them. Let's talk a little bit about them. All 7 of them. Best kitchen renovation. Let's start with that one. 175,000 and over Shaughnessy residents. This one, or Shaughnessy Renaissance. This one won quite a few, actually. So we also run best character home renovation, best renovation 1.5 million and over, best new or renovated space as well, and best interior design renovated homes. So this one was kind of your I don't know, is it appropriate to say granddaddy of awards, but tell us a little bit about the project.
It definitely was for that year. Well, that was a real challenging one for a lot of reasons. It was part of it was in the zoning, which at the time was RS3A, and all those zonings in Vancouver have changed now to all R11s now, I think it's called. Which is a lot more friendly to get permits in now. It's a lot simpler. So this one had a lot of restrictions, and in order to get some decent square footage on this large lot, the house had the existing home, the older home, had character merit. So which meant you got some bonus density if you kept the old house and added on to it. So. Which is what we did, because it would have been probably 3,000 square feet smaller had we just torn it down and then built a new house. So that was the motivation for keeping the old house. It wasn't because it had some incredible design elements that the owner wanted to maintain. It wasn't because of that, and it wasn't because renovating was cheaper than building brand new. It definitely wasn't because of that. So it was simply to get the extra square footage. So, and we could, quite frankly, work with the old architecture and drastically improve on it, which is what we did. And that included stripping the old house down to literally down to the studs, and so there was and ripping the roof off and lifting it in the air. Taking the old foundation out, moving the house to accommodate for some extra square footage, and then added on about another extra 60% square footage to the old home. And that also included, now when you do a renovation like this, you do you're supposed to keep, I believe the number is 40% of the existing house, or you have to keep 60% of the existing house of the structure.
Mm-hmm.
So now one of the challenges was with this one, this was a really difficult thing, is the ceiling heights were kind of wonky in this house. Like they were really low on the main floor. So, but we had to keep that upper floor ceiling. We couldn't get rid of it because we needed that lumber to reach our 60%. So what we ended up doing is we cut out the floor, the entire floor in two pieces, and jacked it up inside the house.
Wow.
And then reattached it and resupported it from the exterior, just so that we could keep the old lumber in it, which, if I might say, is really a silly way of doing things, because we could have really more efficiently built a new house. And the old lumber, because with the old joists, we had to put new ones beside every single one. Same thing with every stud in the wall. We had to put new studs beside it. So we didn't save any lumber by renovating this house, but in order, once again, it was to meet what the city's requirements were of keeping the character.
And that's a hard part. Obviously, we got to follow rules and the regulations and things like that. But sometimes, depending on the condition of the home that you have been given, and like just everything, it's a little bit hard to navigate. And if you're the homeowner, you don't necessarily understand. You just think like, oh, hey, I can build this house, or I can do this and I want to do this. But that's why it's so important to have a builder that is so versed in the rules and regulations for the area you're building in.
Yep.
Well, it also speaks to the caliber of people you hire as well, because anyone who's ever done any level of renovation knows that as soon as you open the walls, you can plan and predict as much as you want. We don't know what's behind those walls until we know what's behind those walls.
Yep. Surprise.
Exactly. Well, these are the words we never want to hear as homeowners getting a renovation.
And
trust me.
that sometimes you do have to do a surprise, and you got to go to the client. You're like, what?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I remember during our renovation, our builder go, I got to show you something. That was usually a short for, I'm going to need another $10,000. So, I do want to talk to you about the awards themselves, because first of all, to win that many awards is not common, and it is a very special achievement, and it's certainly something that deserves our applause and our respect, all of us, for what you've done. And any of us who have ever won awards know what they mean to us, but I wanted from you what those awards mean to you as a company. Like, you're already an established, well-respected company, so what do those awards mean to you at this point in your career and your company's lifespan?
Yeah, I can say, I could try and be humble with this in saying that we over the years we've got many awards, and why do we keep trying to improve on that, or continue to get more awards? It's like we're a proven company, but construction, as we know, development, building, it's changing as fast as the technology is today. You buy a new phone today and it's already outdated, and construction is changing that fast as well. And zonings are changing, bylaws are changing, building codes are changing, everything's changing. So part of being in the awards is letting the public, our future clients, know that, hey, look, we're still in the game, we're still on top of it, we're still a company that you should consider when it comes to building a new home, or renovating a home. So that kind of sends a message out that hey, we still know what we're doing, and we're somebody that you should consider. So it's a really big part. And when the awards, they're displayed in our office. And so when our clients come in to meet us for the first time, they see that, they're established, they know what they're doing, and hey, we should probably listen to these guys.
I've seen them; they're impressive, but who has to wipe them down and dust them all the time?
Yeah, I know. Well, fortunately, that's not me. But
well, as you said earlier, it's usually the children of the builder who have to do those jobs,
there
right?
you go.
As a minor just coming of age now, where we can get them to do that
There
kind
you
of
go.
stuff.
I would love your non-humble answer, but I know that you're a very humble person. You guys deserve it. And that is a big reason why you've also got, I kind of say it's like the Oscars of Havens. It's the Grand Havens. Not everyone can apply for these. They're really big deal. You have to have there's so many criteria to them, and you won for Residential Renovator of the Year. What does that mean for you?
Well, once again, that's a great feather in our cap when it comes to when we're being interviewed, for a job. So there is so many moving parts in building a custom home, and there's even more in renovating. And budgeting is probably the hardest part. And talking about money, if you have
People don't like budgets.
no, and if you have an unlimited budget, it doesn't really happen. But I think in our career, with all the homes that we've built, everybody has always had a budget. Doesn't matter how wealthy they are, they always have a budget. They always have a target that they're trying to hit, and so that poses one of the biggest challenges. But when you get a big award like that, it's sort of I think the clients, when you're really sitting down having a serious talk about budgets, they can be comforted that you know what you're talking about, and especially when early on, because when you're competing for a contract, builders can throw out all kinds of numbers. They can just say, I can tell you what you want to hear, or I can tell you exactly what I believe it's going to cost. And quite often that's two different things. Actually, all the time, that's two different things, because everybody coming in to build it, when they're interviewing you, they come in with this preconceived notion that it's somehow going to be a lot less than what it is really going to be. So, and I think that actually costs us some jobs, unfortunately, because we might be too honest up front to say, like, look, this is really what it's going to cost. And so some clients will end up going with somebody else because they may just have a lower budget. And it's just a budget at that stage. It's not, it doesn't mean anything other than the paper it's written on. And, if nothing's been designed yet, if nothing's come out. So
there's other things too that people don't put in consideration, but I know you guys do because you're so established. Is the fact too, as we mentioned before, in Vancouver, things are changing. Permits take a long time to get, which means sometimes the things you spec, some of the products, everything like that, they can change in price by the time that it's ready to go. And that's something you really have to be honest with. And we had that happen on project, especially when wood was like doing its dance up and down, and that can really affect it. So it's really hard to be like, your house is going to cost this much, and then it's like done in 4 years. And there's so many variables, but that's why you need a contractor to be really honest and be like, this is what it's going to be like. I'm going to try to work my hardest on your budget, but I can't guarantee you.
Well, that's why you need these awards to show that you are honest, because not everybody wins these awards. Think about how many people are building and renovating houses in the Lower Mainland and how many tens of thousands of houses they built. So when you can say you're the best of the best, that means a lot, and it really helps set you apart from some of the other people. Speaking of setting you apart from some of the other people, we want to talk a little about the types of homes that you build. But before we do that, we have to take just 2 moments to thank our amazing podcast sponsors. So we'll be right back, and we're going to deep dive into luxury and luxury home construction.
All right, bring it on.
Measure Twice, Cut Once is grateful to our podcast partners, Fortis BC, BC Housing, and Trail Appliances. Support from our partners helps us share expert knowledge and resources with families looking to build, design, and renovate the home right for you. For BC Housing, creating access to housing solutions that meets everyone's needs is a guiding principle. BC Housing is working with governments, nonprofits, and residential construction industry members to create practical solutions to BC's housing challenges. To learn more about BC Housing Initiative programs and services, go to bchousing.org. And we all need reliable and efficient equipment to have better comfort, health, and safety in our homes. Whether you want to adopt some energy-saving habits or take on a major energy efficiency upgrade, Fortis BC can help you save energy. Be sure to visit fortisbc.com, where you can also find amazing tips on low and no-cost ways to save energy, plus great information on what Fortis BC is doing on low-carbon energy with solutions such as renewable natural gas. Trail Appliances makes everyday life better with the best selection in Western Canada, hassle-free delivery, and a price match guarantee. You'll always get the best deal. At Trail Appliances, you'll love buying an appliance as much as you'll love using it. Affordable, accessible, quality housing is a top-of-mind issue for many British Columbians.
All right, welcome back. And we are going to talk about something really exciting, that is luxury homes. And there's two reasons I'm excited. First of all, it's inspiring for me to keep working harder because I want one like that one day. But two, and this is most important, I come from the technology industry. What was considered luxury technology 5 years ago is now considered mainstream technology. So the important takeaway from all of this is some of the things that you're doing right now are going to scale their way down into houses that are more common and more affordable for people. So can you give me your first, I just want to hear a high level overview. What do you consider luxury to be? Is it a matter of price? Is it a matter of materials? Is it finish? What is luxury?
Geez, yeah, that's a great question. Earlier on, when we started building like homes for other people, you'd think $1 million budget was luxury. It's like, what? We're spending $1 million. Like we're expecting the best of the best of the best. And
that's an entry level condo now.
Unfortunately, yeah, like that doesn't buy you much anymore.
Nope.
There's when people come to us and they ask us, well, how much does it cost to build a house today? And the common reaction was, how much does a car cost? It's like, well, there's a huge range, and in Vancouver, for us, our starting cost per square foot is probably about $500. Mm-hmm. That's not luxury. That's a good house, but it's not luxury. It's not what we would deem as luxury. You can buy flooring for, well, $3-4 a square foot, let's say, for some kind of entry level hardwood, and that's really entry level. And we spend $20 or $25 a square foot on hardwood as well. So there's a huge range. So it's kind of, what is luxury? It's sort of in the eyes of the beholder, I suppose. But we're probably saying you're hitting in a luxury market between $600 and $800 a square foot. You're probably somewhere in there. And then of course it goes way above that. It goes way beyond that. The sky's the limit. So we've built homes for a lot more than that, but it's kind of probably where our average is for a single family in Vancouver.
See, I love this conversation because this is my wheelhouse. This is what I grew up with because this is exactly what my family did. So yep. I totally understand it. And it's interesting to have those conversations with people because even when I've talked to my friends that want like a bathroom reno, like a simple bathroom reno, I was like, could be anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000. They're like, what? And I said, depends what you, and they're like, but I just want, and I said, I know, it's just the problem is the cost of things are so much, especially appliances or paint or like, and it depends on your finish. If you want really basic, like you said, like linoleum or something, then that's different. But it comes down to the cost of the materials you want.
Well, in amongst all that is also reputable tradespeople and a good company to manage the project as well. It's not just materials that we're paying for. And you get what you pay for in this industry.
Yeah.
But that's the problem, Troy. You probably see a lot of it too, especially in the luxury market, is that a lot of people have access to things like Pinterest and Instagram, things that we wouldn't before. And they are seeing luxury home pictures of homes that you build or my family's coming to build or like people in LA. And they're thinking that's for the average person. Yeah. And then they come back and they say, well, I want this. And you're like, well, that's actually going to be like
this and they're amount. Just like, what? Really? Yeah. The people are blown away by how much things cost. And we, 9 times out of 10 or 99 times out of 100, we do run an open book type of contract with our clients. So we do it based on cost plus. So, and our cost, we pass on 100% of our cost. Like there's no hidden markups or anything like that. I've said this all along to all of our people that work with us too. I want to be able to sleep at night. And so I want to know if I'm negotiating on behalf of our client, which is who we are truly working for. We represent our client. We don't represent our trades or our suppliers. We represent our client to our trades and suppliers. So, and that's something that we've made very clear to our trades and suppliers as well. So we're negotiating on behalf of the client. So when I'm working on getting the best price for the client, I pass on 100% of that to the client. And we find that works the best. So, and then it gets plugged into the budget numbers that we come up with.
Well, I'm glad you said that actually, because for me, I'm much newer in this industry than you guys are. Mm-hmm. And one of the most shocking things to me was when I started trying to find partners to work with. Yeah. I get this conversation. So where's my kickback?
Yeah, that's
and
scary.
It wasn't just scary. It was quite an ethical conflict for me, because any of us who lead with integrity have a hard time with that. But if we want to know where a lot of these hidden construction costs come from, it's a lack of transparency. So I'm really glad you brought that up, because at your level, if you're capable of maintaining open book transparency, that is entirely possible for anyone at any level to do that. And that is what we as homeowners should be expecting.
Yep.
And so I'm glad you're doing that.
No, absolutely. And there has to be a level of confidence between you and your client, because that question does get asked every now and then by our clients, as you're getting interviewed. They're saying, well, how do we know you're not getting a kickback? And it's like, well, to be quite honestly, you don't. You're not going to know that. I'm telling you that we don't do that. And like I said, I want to be able to sleep at night, not knowing that you're going to go to the same supplier and get a better deal than what we've shown you. Like, we're giving you the best price, and nobody's getting a better deal on tile than we're getting. Nobody's getting a deeper discount on lumber than we're getting. So I would just as soon rather pass it all on to you, and then you'll see what our markup is, and that's it. If you're not confident with it, if the client's not confident with you in that, if they don't trust you, well, there's no point in going any further. Like, there has to be that confidence and trust between you and the homeowner. Otherwise, you've got nothing. So that's definitely something that you want to have worked out right away. And once again, that's part of it. And if you're not getting the warm and fuzzies from your architect or your interior designer or your builder, then chances are you probably should not be working with them if you don't feel that there's that level of trust there.
The one thing I've learned is that it's almost like a marriage. If you don't pick the right partner, you're not going to have a good experience. And you think about someone like yourself. If I'm lucky enough to be able to build the type of homes you build, we're going to be working together for 2, 3, possibly 4 years.
Yeah.
So we better trust each other. We better have integrity. Better be able to get along, and we better be able to solve any challenges that may come up with an open relationship. And that is a template. No matter what level of home you're building, you should be expecting that.
Yeah. There's going to be some bumps along the road, just like in any marriage. There's some bumps along the road. There's some prizes that will come up. There's mistakes that are going to happen. I mean, construction is riddled with mistakes. The only thing you can try and do is mitigate as many of them as possible and hold the people accountable who made the mistakes as best as possible. And in cost plus, you're also realizing that if we're going to pass along 100% of the costs, there's costs of some mistakes as well, which, once again, you're representing the client. So if one of your trades makes mistakes and you know who it is, you can usually get compensated. But it's when some of the mistakes happen and nobody can point any fingers at how it actually happened, or there's no evidence. That's actually it's an unfortunate cost. That's part of doing it that way.
And it's hard. Things arrive to the set. We're not on a movie set, but arrive to the site.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're damaged, and no one knows about it because until they unpackage them.
Yeah.
And then it's hard to sometimes even be like, well, when did it get damaged? Did it get damaged lifting off the truck? There's a lot of things that you really need a good contractor to kind of be not your lawyer, but they're kind of like your backup a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Your clients want to know that you got their back as best as you possibly can. Now, they're not paying you to be there 24 hours a day, monitoring the site and if they were, then that's a line item that's going to blow the budget out of whack too. So there's that balance always between, we're going to monitor everything as best we possibly can, with also keeping an eye on the budget to make sure that, your management isn't getting out of control there either. So
I got a question. We were talking earlier about luxury. And even earlier about that, you were saying you were getting to some multifamily. So how does what you do in those larger projects scale down to multifamily? Because really, this is where we're going to go as a market. So what you're doing right now is probably going to be fairly commonplace in the next 3 to 5 years.
Yeah.
How do you shrink luxury so it's still luxury, but it still reflects the needs of the homeowner for that particular project?
Well, you can do that in smaller spaces because not all the houses that we build, first of all, are huge. Like, some of them are really small, and we've done some renovations, some award-winning renovations on smaller townhouses and smaller homes. So depending on, if we've got the manpower available, we'll take on some of the smaller projects as well. So it's the same. Sometimes we're trying to do the look for less. We're always trying to do the look for less, I'll be honest, because everybody always wants it to be less. So we're always trying to do it as efficiently as possible.
It's like the fashion hunters that show you one brand, like the
Yeah,
luxury brand, and then how do you do it for less?
yeah, exactly. And there is a way. I use flooring as an example. Not everybody's going to notice a $25 square foot floor. Like, they might notice it somewhat, but the difference between that and a $8 square foot floor might not be that noticeable. So those are, so there's strategies involved with trying to get that look for less. The same thing can be said for windows. How much do people actually notice windows? Well, when you're building a home and you have these options put in front of you, now the homeowners maybe have never looked at a window before in their lives, and now all of a sudden everything that matters is windows, and you kind of got to bring them back to reality. It's like, look, you didn't know about windows beforehand. Nobody's going to notice your windows.
But you
once
might
your home's
feel
finished.
them. My advice is get good windows
Get
because
good
my
windows.
windows
Yeah, well,
feel like a
absolutely.
windstorm's coming through the glass.
No. Well, we don't let that happen ever. But there are certain things that people don't have unlimited budgets. So having experience in it, and I've lived in, not only I've built many homes for myself, but I've lived in a lot of different homes. So I've lived in a lot of floor plans that kind of work well, that I think work really efficiently, that work really well, and others that just, they're a dog's breakfast, and it's like, okay, this works. And having lived in many homes, I kind of know what sort of lighting systems that I use, so that I would be able to express that. I know, having lived in and sold many homes, what kind of windows people notice, what ones they don't care about. So you can kind of make note of that. It's like, look, this is something that people really look for. This is something they don't really care about. So when they're buying a home, let's say, for instance.
How do you balance price and durability? Because some of the cheaper products might not last longer, and it depends if, do you have a lot of kids? Do you have dogs? What is your lifestyle like within the home?
Yeah, no, that's a conversation we have often with our clients. There's a certain level of quality that we don't go below. Like if somebody says, well, I got $200 a square foot to build a house with, it's like, we're not your guy, because you're going to, that house, I'm not saying it's going to fall apart. It's not going to last, and you're not going to get some of the durability that you should have. So, so there is a certain level that we don't go below, and we're usually upfront about that. So if somebody does come in and say they've got an unrealistically low price per square foot, we just say, yeah, can't help you. So things that matter, like cabinets, say for instance, the cabinet boxes, which virtually nobody looks at. Like nobody, your average consumer today doesn't, what is it made out of? It's like, well, we make ours all out of plywood. That's just something we insist on because, cabinet doors opening, closing all the time. It puts all kinds of torque on the hinges. It puts and the screws going into the wood. And if you've got the typical particle board that is used in probably 80% of cabinets out there, they eventually fall apart and your doors are falling off. And, it might be 10 years down the road. It's not that massive of an upgrade to change to plywood, but we recommend it just on the basis that, yeah, it's might going to cost you 10, 15% more, but now you got a great cabinet box instead of, so those are little things that we kind of insist on, to make sure that, we don't want those callbacks.
No,
we don't want that happening. And, you got a leak under your sink and now all your particle board is all swollen up and it just looks like a dog's breakfast under there.
Yeah, that sounds like a bad phone call to have.
Yeah. So we just, there's things like that we just don't go below some certain levels of quality.
There you go. And that rings true to many of your other projects. I know you've got new projects coming up. You've got a passion project of yours, which is a private school. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Because that's totally different. Obviously, it's going to be quality, but it's a little bit different than building a home.
Yeah. It's funny. That kind of project is more what I grew up in construction wise, in terms of the type of construction being a institutional construction. So, that's a big give back on my part. I believe in philanthropy. I believe in giving back to the community. This was admittedly, it was motivated because I, wanted a place for my kids, my two daughters to go to high school. And, they went to elementary school in, the South Surrey White Rock area. at Star of the Sea, which is absolutely a fantastic school. And the question was right away, where are they going to go to high school? You start thinking, as a parent, you guys know, you start thinking in advance. It's like, okay, what is this future going to look like? So, and there wasn't a high school in the area that we felt conducive, for them to go to. So that was the initial motivation. And especially for my youngest daughter, she has Down syndrome, and I really wanted to try and build something for her to be able to stick together with her the grade level that she was in, so she wouldn't be transitioning into something totally new in high school. So that was a lot of the motivation at the time, and that goes back well over 10 years ago that little brainchild started. And I'm proud to say that our new high school, St. John Paul II Academy, which has been open for classes for the last 7 years, or going into year 7, yeah. And but the new campus is going to be open, and when it's completely built in 2025, it's going to be open. So this time next year, exactly a year from now.
Driven by it, it's pretty spectacular.
Yeah, and it'll eventually it'll be open for 540 students, and when we complete the inside, it'll be for 900 students. And we're pretty proud of that project. That's not a moneymaker. That was a big donation on our part in terms of time, effort, and money. And so that's a school that we imagine will be there for the next 100 years. And there's a massive need for schools in Surrey.
Absolutely.
Right now. To put that in perspective, not to ramble on about that, but to put it in perspective, there's roughly 50,000 kids in K-12 in the city of Vancouver. And it's been shrinking over the last few years. And in the city of Surrey, there is roughly 82,000 kids in K-12, and it's growing every year.
And you have 3 of those.
And they're stacked elbow to elbow. Everybody's crowded. There isn't a lot of
doing start times staggered in some schools.
Start and finish times, to be able to the new school, Grandview Heights, which is just down the road from our new campus on 24th Avenue.
It's full, right?
That was, I think the day it opened, it was built for 1,600 students. It was full the day it opened, 8 to 12. It was full. And now it's over 1,700. I think they have 11 portables in the parking lot, and they're staggered start finish times. And they have now said that even if you're in the catchment area, you cannot come to the school because we are full.
That's happening with us as well. And it's great that you're doing that, because by doing that, not only have you created something particularly unique, but you've taken a lot of pressure off the other schools. And what I will say is this: all of us in business hope to make a mark on this world. Very few of us get to leave a tangible legacy like that. And from the bottom of our hearts as parents and just people, thank you very much for doing that. We need more people who take that leadership position and consider their place in the community, and not just what can it do for me. And I really appreciate that.
I appreciate you saying that, Mike. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a big undertaking, and to do it as a give back project, a lot of people, it's a long timeline. It's a lot of hours and things. And I think that's amazing that you're doing it, because you're also helping build communities in South Surrey, which as much as it is a beautiful place to live, and I can see the draw for a lot of families, but there's not enough education out there, and we really need to have that so we can continue to build all these amazing communities in South Surrey. So thank you.
Yep. You're most welcome, and happy to give back. And I encourage other people to do the same. I didn't do it on my own. There's many people that jumped on board to say, hey, let's do this. And so it's taken a long time. There's a lot of funds to be raised still to pay for this big project. It's a $80 million project, excluding the land cost, which is another $30 million on top of that. So, and that's something that the private sector can do. Never count out the private sector. That's a parent-led initiative that got that school built. And it's with the help of the Catholic Archdiocese. Not the help. I mean, they've basically backed the whole thing, which is huge. And that's some great foresight on that, on the part of the Archdiocese that's helped that through.
And I'm going to add one bit of insight as well. I grew up in Ontario, where there's a separate Catholic school board and public school board. That is not the case here. So there is not public funding to draw on for that. That is entirely an initiative of you guys, which is amazing. What is not amazing is we are coming to the end of our time together. In fact, it's rather sad, and I'm sorry to say that we don't have more time. But this being only your first time, that doesn't mean we won't have a second, third, fourth time as you keep winning all these awards.
Yeah, for sure.
Listen, we are very grateful for a lot of different reasons. It's always awesome to have someone who's won all those awards and has that leadership prerogative. But really, my take from all of this is just working with a great team with a process-driven planning and experience. These are things that are really important. The other thing I love that you said was that mistakes will happen. It takes a lot to say that mistakes will happen, because we try to say we're all perfect, we know everything. But the fact of the matter is, really, nobody knows everything, and it's what we do with things that happen, not so much the things that happen. And finally, your take on what luxury means and how it can scale down or scale up. And it's really something that's very fluid in terms of what things mean. Like for me, like a high-end home theater is more luxurious than a high-end kitchen. But I can't afford the alimony payments to do one or the other, so we're going to do with the kitchen, right? So that's just the way it is. And I love your take on that as well. So thank you so much for sharing that. It's been a really inspiring conversation.
But see, maybe Troy needs to sit down with you and your wife, and he can explain. He's like, we can do things for this price depending on what you want. He can be your mediator. He explained it so well earlier.
No. If I have a choice between a theater and a kitchen, I can't afford the alimony payments. We're going with the kitchen.
We're going with the kitchen. There you go.
There you go. A happy wife, happy life is what they say. Troy, you gave us so many nuggets of wisdom, but can you give us one more tip for people that are wanting to build just a home in general, whatever it means to them that's luxury? Because I think everybody considers their space a luxury home.
Yeah. You know what? This is my and this has been our philosophy for a long time. And we've kind of we've flipped this upside down a little bit. But if budget matters, which it always does, you should hire your builder first. Before your architect, before your interior design, if budget matters, hire a builder that knows what they're doing first. We always come up with a budget, even if it's just plugging in a bunch of numbers on a sheet based on our historicals. We come up with that budget first. And then we can work with the architect. We can work with the interior design to help keep the project on budget out of the gate during the design phase. Because it's a sad day when potential clients come to us and they've got all of it's great, they've got the permits, because we don't have to do that, we don't have to do that waiting game with the city, but they've got all the interior design work done and all the architecture work done, and then they say, how much is this going to cost? And it is nowhere near what they've budgeted for. So I always encourage that. Hire your builder first, start interviewing right away, because that's where you're going to get the real numbers, is from your builder.
What a great segue for the final part of our conversation. Speaking of luxury and budget, hey, if you're listening or watching this and you'd like a little bit more budget for your home and a little bit of luxury while you're doing it, you should probably enter our contest to win a barbecue. And as I say every single episode, like and share this episode. Tell your family, tell your friends, even people on the street you meet. Doesn't really matter. But you are going to want to come here, because you have a chance to win a Napoleon Prestige P500 stainless steel natural gas barbecue valued at $1,600, compliments of our amazing podcast partners at Fortis BC. You can get all the details at havan.ca/measure twice, cut once.
I know Mike is in love with barbecuing. Do you like barbecuing? Is it a South Surrey thing?
Almost every day.
Oh, almost every day. Perfect.
We're going to hang out probably after this.
You guys are close to each other. You should go to each other's houses for...
I have two, yeah.
Yeah.
Only two?
Oh,
Only
Mike's
two.
got 12 smokers, P.S.
12 smokers.
Like, for
Wow.
real.
I kind of have a problem.
You might have a problem, yeah.
Actually, I don't have any problems. It's everyone else who thinks I have the problem. I'm perfectly happy.
So we'll ask your wife that question. But
No, we're not
anyways,
going to ask her any of those questions about barbecues. It's a sensitive
we'll
subject.
create a time to barbecue with Troy and Mike. But in the meantime, for notes and links to everything mentioned on today's episode, including resources shared by Troy, go to havan.ca/measure twice, cut once. Thank you to Trail Appliances, Fortis BC, BC Housing, Ramey Films, JPod Creations, and AI Technology and Design. It takes a team to build a home, and so does it to build this podcast. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
All right. TAVAN.ca is another good place to
Oh,
visit.
I love it. Put it in there. You can also go to TAVAN.ca for more information.
All right.
Awesome. Thank you, Troy.
Thank
Thank you
you
very
both
much. I
very
really
much.
appreciate it.
My pleasure.